Jim, the boys and yourself managed to sort of calm down after the other night?
Yeah, I think we're back down to earth now. We've obviously got a huge game tomorrow to focus on, but did speak about it this morning. It's very difficult to sleep after night games anyway, and to have the kind of result that we had. Obviously, the adrenaline is pumping through your veins till the early hours of the morning. So the majority of the players and staff didn't get a great night's sleep after the game. And then yesterday, it's about trying to recover, get the boys, massage, and make sure that they're eating properly, rehydrating, to then go again today in training. So we didn't do a great deal with the starting 11. The other guys had a good morning, short and sharp kind of games and stuff. But yeah, it can sometimes be difficult to get them back up because you've had such a high after that result. To then get yourself picked back up again is difficult. But we have to do it. It's as simple as that. It's a psychological thing. They will be feeling a little bit of fatigue at the moment, but we can't allow that to play any part in the game tomorrow. And I stressed that to them this morning. They've got to be mentally tough and they've really got to dig in, and it's as simple as that.
I suppose, as much as getting to a cup semi-final and beating this Rangers team that's been in such good form is a huge achievement for the club. But if you manage to slip off again and find yourselves back in relegation zone, all that sort of goes to waste in that sense.
Well, yeah, look, we're on a really good run at the moment. Obviously, 10 games unbeaten now. But you're right to point out that, all of that excitement and all of the goodwill that's been coming our way after Wednesday's result will soon be forgotten if we get turned over tomorrow by St Johnstone. So, St Johnstone are a very good side. They're further up the table than what we are. They beat us last game when we were through at Perth. So we know what to expect. But, as I said, we're in a really good place at the moment. Confidence is high. And there's no excuses with regards to fatigue. St Johnstone played midweek as well. Okay, they've had the extra day to recover, but my boys are a really fit group, and we've got a really good sports science team, good medical team. The lads will be ready come 3 o'clock tomorrow.
Finally, for me, how's the squad looking for tomorrow's game?
Yeah, we're looking okay. We've got one or two, obviously, tired legs and one or two muscular issues, but in the main, we'll be fine.
Cheers, Jim.
Jim, we've touched upon this, that the club has obviously had its issues at the start of the season with the COVID, and then obviously the heavy punishments from the SPFL. I just wondered what this run does for a club, both on and off the club when you're on a high.
Oh, listen, it's given everybody a huge lift. Obviously in the playing side of things with the players and the coaching staff, it's given us a fantastic lift. But a result like Wednesday, when we come back into the stadium on Thursday, it gives all the office staff, the catering staff, everybody is buzzing because of such a great performance, and everybody's looking forward to the semi-final now in January. But as I just said there, it's important to enjoy the moment, but not to get carried away in it. And it's really important now that we can switch back on to league business, which is our which is the most important thing for us, really. I've said in many interviews that we want to get in the habit of going far in cup competitions, but the league remains our bread and butter, and the importance of Saturday's game is huge.
On the issue of the SPFL appeals, Jim, I'm assuming you're still to hear about that.
Yeah, I asked Tony Fitzpatrick this morning if we had any feedback on that, and there's not been anything came back yet, Raman. But of course, I'm sure you guys will probably know before I do. But hopefully we get the opportunity to play Motherwell and Hamilton, and give us a chance to for those 6 points, because, like I said a couple of weeks ago, those 6 points can be massive come the end of the season. They could be the difference between finishing in the top 6 or finishing 9th or 10th, so we can't afford to be giving those kind of points away, especially to teams that we're competing with, because I think if you take them 6 points off Motherwell, all of a sudden they're right down there with us, so we need to hope for a fair outcome and hope that we can get the opportunity to play for those points on the park.
And given what is at stake, Jim, do you think there needs to be a decision on that fairly soon?
I would expect there to be a decision next week. I would like to think so. I mean, we're running out of possible fixture dates to replay both those games. So yeah, I would like to think that the appeal will have been decided next week at some point.
Jim, just obviously that's 10 games unbeaten for you now for sort of smaller clubs like St Johnstone as well, just off the back of an 11-game unbeaten run. It's very difficult given the sort of parameters you're working under.
Well, of course it is, yeah, definitely. And, I'm absolutely delighted with the form that we're in, but it's important to point out the good form of St Johnstone as well. And I did reiterate that to the players in our analysis meeting this morning that, St Johnstone had went on an 11-game unbeaten run. So, that goes to show you what a good side they are. And I have a lot of time for Callum Davidson as a manager and as a person. I love the way he set his team up. They're very hard working, very offensive when they need to be, but very well organised as well. So it should be a really decent game. I think, two form teams in the country going at it, and both of us desperate for the 3 points. I don't think it'll be a cagey affair. I think the two teams will really go for it, and hopefully we'll come out on top.
It's a potential cup final rehearsal as well. I think if you'd have put money on that at the start of the season, you'd have get good money back on it.
Oh, I think you would have, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I don't think anybody would have been expecting the semi-final draw to be what it is right now. But look, we're just delighted to be in the semi-final. Looking forward to that game in January with Livingston. And I said when the draw was made on Wednesday night that every manager and every group of players should believe that they are capable of winning the cup. If you don't, then there's got to be something wrong with you, and that's got to be our mindset. We're very optimistic. We'll be extremely positive going into the Livingston game, and as of this moment, we believe that we have got as good a chance as the other three teams in the competition.
Just away from the park a wee bit as well. Somebody who wasn't fear of a few headers or two. You've seen the trial of concussion substitutes are going to get trialled in the sort of Scottish Cup games. Are you happy to see that? Probably long-awaited news.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, I really do, and it's something that other sports have been doing for a long time. Particularly rugby and in the NFL in America, and football is normally slow to catch on. Other sports have been using the likes of VAR and all these things long before we catch on to doing it. But I think it's a step in the right direction. I think the powers that be, deserve credit when credit is due, and I think this is a really important step. I've probably headed the ball far too many times myself, and I know that I've had numerous concussions. I've had numerous clashes of heads. I think back to my debut for Scunthorpe a number of years ago, where I fractured my skull in the 12th minute of the first game of the season, and I played on to half time, knowing that there was something seriously wrong with me, but I didn't want to come off the park, and it wasn't until half time when I started being sick and I started having blood actually coming from my nose that the physio and the doctor at the time made the decision to bring me off. So I think it's a really important decision from the authorities, and one that I would certainly welcome.
How did you be allowed to continue playing with that? I'm assuming obviously you knew there was something wrong, but surely the doctor should have identified something.
No, look, I mean, I don't blame the medical team at the time because they were very, very good. It was a clash of heads. It was actually with Liam Fontaine, who is still up here at the moment. Liam was playing for Bristol City and I was obviously playing for Scunthorpe, and the two of us clashed heads. It happens all the time, and I did have a big bump on my head, but there wasn't a cut, so there was no real obvious fracture there that was identifiable to the physio at the time. But I did know. I knew at half time once the blood started coming from the kind of front of my head down through the inside of my skull out my nose. I knew then that something had seriously happened. So yeah, went for the X-ray and got the operation, and I've now got a metal plate in the front of my head. But these are the things that we now, we're too far on in terms of medical science and everything else, and we're too far on now to be taking any risks with players' welfare. I know back in the day, long before my time, it was considered brave and courageous to carry on with these things, but I don't want to be taking any risks with any of my players. In fact, when I think back to a game I had at Livingston with Alloa, Andy Graham was my centre half, and the big man fell out with me for about a month because I took him off after the head knock. I just knew he didn't look right, and I dragged him. He wanted to play on, but I think as managers we've got to take responsibility, and I think we have got to make those difficult decisions at times, even if they are key players, to protect the long-term future of the player. It's not just about the here and now, it's about 20 and 30 years from now.
Yeah, because you've seen down south like Raul Jimenez, I think at Wolves, obviously fractured his skull. I mean, that would compared to what your treatment of it was, I know you don't blame the doctors and stuff, but the treatment and stuff is very different from what it was 10, 15 years ago.
Well, of course it is. Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, things are improving all the time, and it is a freak accident. People break legs and do cruciate ligaments all the time. For someone to fracture their skull on the football pitch is a real rarity, but it did happen to me, and Peter Cech, in fact, and I used to laugh about it because Peter Cech done his head probably about 6 weeks after I'd done mine, and Peter Cech had about a 3-inch scar on the side of his head because he's obviously got the money to go private, whereas I've got a scar. If I shave my head, I've got a scar from one side of my head right across the top to the other. So I don't know how Scunthorpe didn't have the money at the time to pay for it, but I ended up with a scar from one ear to the other right over the top of my head, whereas if you do it properly and you go private, then you get a little 3-inch scar on the side of your head. So yeah, they are a freak accident. It happens, but I think we're never going to take heading out of the game. I can't see that happening. There is always going to be accidents. It's just important that the medical team are given the power to make those big decisions. And if we need to bring in independent doctors who make those decisions for us, then so be it. But me as a manager, I'm quite happy to take responsibility to protect the players.
That's probably a decent story for you to tell the grandkids in a few years' time. So.
Well, that's one of the reasons I had to grow my hair, to be honest, because I went on holiday not long after it, the following summer. Some little kid at the pool thought it was a fantastic design, and he thought my barber had actually done it. So I'm as well covered up now with my hair, thankfully.
I've often wondered about that as well.
Jim, sorry, we've had a bit of dropout on our Wi-Fi here. Sorry, Jim, sorry to revisit the issue of the appeal for me, Jim. You saying there that the club should be given the chance to play the 2 games again. Are you confident that you will be given that chance? I mean, I'm thinking about what your appeal is going to be based on, what it is based on.
Listen, Ram, I don't want to speculate what the outcome is going to be, if you don't mind, just purely based on the fact that the decision hasn't been made. I'd be happy to comment once we've got clarification of what is going to happen. But my stance on it is we should be given the opportunity to play those games. I think if those rules and regulations were put in place before a ball was kicked, before the season had started, then we could all accept it. But we can't create penalties as the season is ongoing. And yeah, that's where I am, and probably as much as I can say without getting myself in too much trouble with the board and the chief executive.
Fair enough.
Cheers, Jim.
Cheers, Jim.